Hello everyone, it's time for round 12. Bradley Grant against Alexander Hayne. And it is Grant at 10-1, Alexander Hayne at 10-1. Is that right? They're both at X and 1. Good effort. Want to check that. I haven't actually seen the standings coming into round 12.
I have confirmed it with our scorekeeper.
Awesome. Fantastic. So, we're away with Experiment 1 and Thought Scour.
Which reveals a land and a Snapcaster made for Hayne.
Hayne lays land number 2. And Bradley Grant will go to work with his Jund Aggro Falconwrath Punch deck.
I like that. All right, so what does he have for his 2-drop here? Oh, he's got Burning Tree Emissary, which is
what does he have for his 2-drop here?
Yeah, exactly. The actual question. First, we have a trigger on Experiment 1, but this is interestingly going to give him access to red mana he might not already have.
Looks like all he's got, though.
Or maybe Hayne has paused him. No, yep, you're right. He had nothing else. It was just a 2-2 for 2. Had a little chat with Matt Nass about Burning Tree Emissary. His opinion on it is that it's too high variance. He thinks that when it's good, it's really, really good, and when it's bad, it's just kind of not very exciting at all. And we get to see the downside of that here. Curious about your opinions at home on Burning Tree Emissary. It looks somewhat innocuous, but it's been a pretty high-impact card here. Boros Reckoner for Alexander Hayne is going to get Abrupt Decade, and he's going to take 2 from the Emissary we've been talking a bunch about here.
Well, the early turns are suggesting this is going to be one of those brutal matchups where nothing stays on the board for very long.
Yeah, indeed. Hey, Boros Reckoner number 2, though.
Back we go to Bradley, who draws an Experiment 1 off the top of his deck. Has his colors lined up, and
jeez,
see,
you were right.
So, no, it's good, therefore it's dying.
You called that.
And it's this land number 4, and will it be tapped or untapped? Oh, okay, that's fine. It's a Rootbound Crag. And now here's your first Mog Flunkies. Oh, that gives me such a warm feeling.
That is really funny.
Going right back to the start of my playing days, 1997.
Was it in Tempest when that card was first out?
Yeah, it was in Stronghold.
Oh, Stronghold.
Yeah, that block.
Yep,
middle set. Yep, Tempest was my first pre-release. So Mog Flunkies was a really big card.
This is kind of a funny contrast we have. We have Mog Flunkies on one side versus Augur of Bolas, which is a much more modern, you know, kind of what we expect from a creature type card these days.
So Burning Tree Emissary and Mog Flunkies up against Augur of Bolas. And that's really the first quiet turn from Hayne, who's at 14 against Bradley's 18. Winner here be in very good shape to head down the stretch towards a top 8 with 15 rounds. Some people are talking about maybe 12, some 12 and 3s might make it in. Certainly you'd be thinking, you know, 13 and 2 completely safe and locked up, and they'd be well on the way to that.
Experiment 1.
Grant runs out Experiment 1. And then Dreg Mangler has haste. Counter goes on Experiment 1 as it evolves. And now it's red zone time.
So Hayne has a profitable block on the Emissary here. Does he have anything else to deal with either of the other 2 3/3s? He does.
Oh, Azorius Charm sends the Mog Flunkies to the top of Bradley's library.
Hayne still takes 3 in the transaction, though, dropping him down to 11. He's got 5 lands in play with a potential 6 this turn, and you know, we could be creeping up towards a big Sphinx's Revelation here for Alex.
Yeah, and Sphinx's Revelation is a card that we've seen in decks this morning, essentially left unplayed.
That's right.
They just haven't had time to get there.
Discarded to Liliana as the first option.
Back comes Flunkies, as you'd expect. And evolve.
Go to attacks.
Mangler. Experiment 1, Burning Tree Emissary, only an Augur of Bolas back. Just one little rules thing worth noting there, Marshall. You saw how when the Flunkies came down, there was a little pause, and there was no counter put on the Experiment 1. And in some parts of Magic history, your opponent, in this case Alexander Hayne, would have said, Yeah, you kind of missed that. You took, you know, there were a good solid pause where you didn't announce that trigger. That's not the way it works right now.
No.
Until we get to the point where it can be shown that you hadn't done the trigger, you can wait as long as you like. And
That's right.
Okay, so I thought about it for a minute, and then I put it on, and that's all fine.
That's right.
As we see, Snapcaster Mage from Hain. He is going to look to eliminate some of the threats on the board.
Double block the Mangler here, possibly.
That's what it looks like.
So he's going to trade a Snapcaster Mage for a Drag Mangler, and he's also presumably going to have that Azorius Charm to put something back on top of Bradley's library. The Experiment one seems to be the likely target for that. I didn't see if Alex has maybe a Searing Spear or something in his yard that he might want to use instead, but we'll see.
I'll kill the Augur.
So he's ordered the blockers.
All right. Damage.
We'll see which one. It looks like he's going to take out the Augur. Oh, and Alex just took the damage. Oh, no, he didn't. Okay, so that was just an order blocker. I thought they were going to damage, but they weren't. All right, so yeah, as predicted, Experiment 1 is back in the Petri dish.
Nice, good line.
Thank you. And Alex draws his card for the turn again. He's still got 5. He didn't hit that land drop last turn. He's at 6. So he's getting to a pretty uncomfortable life total here with just the Snapcaster Mage up, but he should have a bunch of cards in hand. He tends to hold them close to his face so it can be hard to see, but he's got a Thought Scour here.
Away goes Boros Charm, Azorius Charm. As you say, mana's what he wants because he's starting to head into the territory where you'd just love to be able to go, well, here's a Restoration Angel, I'll send away my Snapcaster Mage, it can come back. I could, you know, maybe Azorius Charm out of the graveyard.
Yeah, I mean, Alex can pass the turn with Angel mana up here, but the question is Bradley in a position where he can play around an Angel, you know, that he doesn't even know about for sure? Probably not. I mean, it would be pretty disastrous. Well, now that attack does signify, though, that there's likely an Angel in the future here for Bradley, and it would be a devastating play. I mean, he'd get to eat the Mog Flunkies. He'd get to trade off for the Emissary as well.
Well, you say that, but there are 4 Gore-Clan Rampagers
good point.
in the deck for Bradley.
Who needs Giant Growth?
Well, quite. So there's an element where I wonder whether Hain has to respect that kind of pump. I mean, he's down at 6, so he's going to run it out there. So I think Bradley just has that opportunity.
He could make his Burning Tree Emissary a 6/6 with trample. It's because it would be the one that's going to get blocked by the Snapcaster Mage if this is an Angel. It is indeed. All right, so let's see what happens here. Trigger. No play with that because Alex doesn't have any mana left, but he is going to make the blocks as we thought, and it looks like it's just going to happen.
Oh,
all right,
wow.
So this is fantastic for Alex.
Oh, God.
Gore-Clan Rampager there would have been pretty bad, but it looks like Dreadbore is going to take out the Angel, and the Experiment one that he knew was coming is going. And Alex is really in a fine position here. He's sitting at 6. He's facing down a 1/1 with his opponent top decking. He does hit a land here, and you'd think that Alex is going to have a lot of ways to get through his deck and to get to his Sphinx's Revelation.
Also worth mentioning that unlike some of the other aggressive decks we've seen today, for Bradley, he only has 2 Searing Spear main deck as ways to just simply go upstairs to the dome.
All right, so Bradley went for a Rakdos Cackler that got countered by Counterflux, and Alex found another land off the top and played it. Still just facing down that lowly 1/1 Experiment one. And it's going to get scavenged onto right now, so it's going to be a 4/4.
Pretty good.
So does Alex have a way to interact?
I would think the first thing Alex needs is 3 points of Sphinx's Revelation, but he's not going to get that to happen.
All right,
wow,
so now
he
Alex
has
is
nothing.
sitting on 1, and Alex just seems to have absolutely nothing in his hand.
And packs
he
it
just
in.
has nothing, and Bradley gets there.
Dreg Mangler Scavenge.
Wow.
Is what got that done in the end. So there you see Bradley Grant at 10-1 and now 1 game away from 11-1. Over on the right of the screen, you see the Austrian Thomas Holzinger, terrific addition to the pro ranks, top 8 of Pro Tour last year, Platinum Pro, and really putting a run together here. As you see Grant and Hain gearing up for their game 2. And we'll see if we can take a look at the Thomas Holzinger-David Gleicher match, which is a repeat of Holzinger's last round, where we saw Holzinger take down Matt Nass. Nass playing the Human Reanimator deck, Gleicher the same.
18,
And there we see the board state in their still game 1. Holzinger at 20, well, that's not a massive surprise because, well, now 18, because really they're not looking to interact on the Gleicher side of the board with Holzinger's life total. They're looking to interact with his deck itself. On the other side, Gleicher has a very busy graveyard. He has multiple Fiend Hunters in play, Burning Tree Emissary. What those Fiend Hunters have taken out is aggressive creatures from Holzinger's side of the board. So we're not at the stage where Gleicher is into combo mode with Burning Tree Emissaries underneath his own Fiend Hunters, with Angel of Glory's Rise underneath his own Fiend Hunters. At the moment, Fiend Hunter is being what I might call a limited Fiend Hunter, which is where you bang it down and you get rid of one of your opposing threats as a sort of tempo play.
Sure. Board state looks pretty good for David here. Even though he isn't able to be aggressive with it, he seems to have shored up any threats from Tomas, and Tomas just has nothing. Although he does have a couple of good cards in hand. I see that he's got an Orzhov Charm, which he can cast. He's got black mana now, and he's going to be able to get back one of his creatures if he wants. He can even do it at instant speed, get back a Silverblade Paladin, pair it up, you know, during blocks. He's got some options along those lines.
Hain against Grant, still in the shuffling phase of the game. Gearing up for their second game of a possible 3. And Gleicher will pass the turn, having landed Undercity Informer, the key card really that makes everything run so smoothly. And Nass and Gleicher were both saying that the Avacyn's Pilgrim, enabling them to play an Undercity Informer on turn 2 was a massive deal for them this weekend. Right? Yeah, they really liked their Pilgrim.
That is one of the differences between the decks that we've seen, is decks that have a Pilgrim and decks that don't. There's also varying numbers of Huntmaster of the Fells that some guys are playing. So there's definitely a few versions of this deck floating around.
Holzinger is going to do his finest Tom Martell impression with some Lingering Souls. Congratulations once again to your Pro Tour Gatecrash champion, Tom Martell of the United States. His first Pro Tour title, his second top 8, having missed out in the top 8 of Paris in 2011.
Looks like Lingering Trolls here.
So the Paladin will come back.
Good luck.
Holzinger has Gleicher at 12, but
video match to start right away.
Gleicher is just waiting to find the last piece of the puzzle to get his graveyard into action. Players drawing their cards bottom right for game 2 of Grant against Hain. We'll go back there for the start of their game 2 once we see whether they mulligan or not. Holzinger passes back to Gleicher. And 4 mana, here we go. Because I think this is going to be an Unburial Rites from somewhere in there.
There it is.
It is.
And here comes Angel of Glory's Rise, and there's a lot of triggers on the stack right now.
Okay, let's leave those triggers there and let's go back to our main match, because we are underway with an Experiment 1 from Bradley Grant and a turn 2 Augur of Bolas from Alexander Hain. Looks like he's found, is that a Harvest Par he found there? Going into hand.
I could not see it.
No, I think it may well be. We'll take a look when we get a chance. Has 1 in his main deck.
Yep, true. Still 20.
Chance to turn a graveyard into an X damage spell. So Grant on the left will add Burning Tree Emissary and Burning Tree Emissary to Experiment 1.
Yeah, he's just going to get 1 Evolve trigger from the first Burning Tree Emissary there.
Doesn't have a third 2-drop.
Just force pass a turn back.
I mean, still a great turn 2.
Not too
don't
bad.
Get me wrong,
yeah.
But
does
Hayne.
give Alex a little bit of breathing room, as we did see in a previous feature match this deck produce. Oh, this is actually Jund, but a similar build with Burning Tree Emissaries produce 7 attacking power on turn 2. But a Boros Reckoner for Hayne is going to be a real stop sign.
Yeah, this is a decent start for Hayne. A 1-3 and a 3-3 against a pair of 2-2s that aren't going to be getting bigger.
Right.
A 2-2 Experiment 1 that, yes, can get bigger, but at pretty big expense given that Boros Reckoner's on the other side of the table.
Yeah, that was a big play there. He found black mana.
Yeah.
It is for Dreadbore, as it turns out. It could have also been for Abrupt Decay.
Smash,
Take 4.
bounce off the Experiment 1, and take 4.
So if Alex can find maybe a land and a Supreme Verdict, that would be fantastic for him. But it looks like he's got a 3-drop. And again, this feels like a replay of the other game. Let's see if Brad's going to untap and just instantly kill that Boros Reckoner like he did in the first game. He's got all of his colors. If he has Abrupt Decay or another Dreadbore, he can do it. These non-direct damage ways to kill Boros Reckoner are pretty key here, as if Bradley is forced to Searing Spirit, then Alex gets to take out the Experiment 1.
So 3 mana.
3 mana.
The card that won game 1, ultimately, it's Dreg Mangler. Didn't win it on the battlefield, though. Won it from the graveyard.
And he does send in with both guys. They're both 3 power, so he could potentially lose both of them, or at least use up the Experiment 1's Evolve trigger here. Now, Alex played his land tap, so he doesn't have the ability to give his guy first strike. So he is, in fact, going to take out both of them.
See, that seems fine for Hayne.
Yeah.
A whole turn went by. He didn't take a ton of damage.
That's
He's
just
still
a
got
straight
an
up 2 for
auger.
1.
Yeah, and he's still got an auger against one of the Burning Trees. It's only 2 points of damage a turn that he's currently being threatened with. Although Dreg Mangler can change the math again, because that is now in the graveyard.
Yeah.
I think this is pretty reasonable for Hayne.
Three mana for Graham. What could he have here? Ooh! Domri Raid.
Planeswalker time.
This is the first one of these I think we've seen this weekend.
We had, I think I had one with Jake.
Ah, okay, yep.
In the round I did with Jake yesterday, we had a Domri that got pretty busy. Because we got as far as Emblem.
Oh, geez.
Oh yeah, we had Emblem Domri Raid yesterday.
Okay, well,
we had a fun
I missed that one.
Yeah.
Well, this is going to be an interesting position, because now Domri Raid becomes the most important thing on the battlefield, although it's going to be under severe pressure from this Restoration Angel on end step from Alexander Hayne, as he finds a Thought Scour that he can actually play right now if he wants. And this is what this deck does very well, is keep that velocity going forward, you know, keep that momentum of keep drawing cards, moving through your library, getting to the things that you want. I mean, right now Alex can just kill Domri Raid if he feels like he wants to. He's got a Slayer's Stronghold out. But it looks like he's going to pay 6 mana, for Mizzium Mortars and kill Domri Raid. What a blowout. What a huge turn that was.
That's wowie.
Man, left Bradley with no permanence outside of his lands.
Yep.
What a huge play. And Bradley just has to ship the turn back, as Alex is now firmly in the driver's seat of this one. Now, we know that Alex only has the one Mizzium Mortars and the one Supreme Verdict, but geez, when he gets to that point, it's really nice. He's just going to hit him for 6 here.
Yeah, I'm calling this one time of death 11:46 a.m.
It does not look good. You know, something like an Experiment 1 here, and there's one right now. Doesn't do a whole lot.
Well,
he is going to get
No, he isn't.
All right, so good call.
Yeah, and there it is.
So it got a little quick there, but what happened was Bradley played Experiment 1 and then was going to scavenge his Dreg Mangler onto it. It got Izzet Charmed in response, and that he said, good enough.
Yeah. Thanks for playing. So it is not. So it is 1-1 in that one.
We'll make sure that we get that graphic updated.
It's good to know that of the possible 2-0, 0-2, and a 1-1.
We've covered all of our bases.
Here it is, 80 minute now.
I like it. It's just 1.
Now it's just 1.
Ah, there it is.
There it is.
All right.
Lovely. So they are tied, waiting for a decider. What about Holtzinger and Gleischer? I wonder what's going on there. Sounds like they're shuffling up on the other table as well. So a card I'm really interested in seeing, Marshall, out of Alex Hayne this weekend. He is one of those players who has taken the plunge in Standard for Assemble the Legion. And that really interests me. It's like, what do you make of Assemble the Legion?
Yeah, so we got a chance to actually preview that card.
I remember one of the North American GPs,
Yeah,
right?
I think it was in Atlantic City. And, you know, Nate and I, we were both in the booth that weekend, and we compared it to almost like a Planeswalker.
Right.
In that it generates an advantage for you every turn without having to pay mana.
Yes.
And it's except for it has an advantage over a Planeswalker and also disadvantages. The main advantage is that it's harder to deal with as a permanent.
Yep.
You can't attack an enchantment. And enchantments are traditionally pretty tough to deal with. It also doesn't die to abrupt decay. You need to have something fairly specific, you know, a detention sphere or something out of your sideboard to kill it. The downside, of course, is that it only does one thing. So it's not like a Planeswalker in the sense that it gives you a lot of versatility, but what it does give you is inevitability. If once you get that on the table, your only concern is making the game go as long as possible, because you will win the game at some point, assuming that you remember your muster counters and such. You will, you know, a Planeswalker is capable of doing the same thing repeatedly, and Assemble the Legion it actually grows, right? It keeps adding and adding and adding and adding.
It's the Terminator, isn't it? Because it absolutely will not stop until you are dead.
That is correct.
It will never get bored. It doesn't know pity.
You will not talk it out of it.
No.
Now, the other downside, of course, though, is that it really does require a pretty controlling shell around it, because it does nothing the turn it comes into play. You spend your whole entire turn, 5 mana, and you just say go, and nothing has changed on the board. And that's a big price to pay when you're facing down a deck, for example, like Bradley's, where he's going to be putting a lot of pressure on you, and you're not going to be able to have a turn where you just don't do anything for the turn.
So we'll see what happens here in Game 3. Players drawing their opening hands. Do we have a keeper on both sides? Looks like Bradley is a keep, and we're away. Both players keep their 7. And at turn 1, experiment 1 at the cost of 2 life. Bradley a little less concerned with life total than Hayne in the early going. Hayne plays his first land, it's Steam Vents, and that is tapped, keeping him at 20. So are we going to see multiple emissary action here on turn 2? That's emissary number 1. Put a counter on. 2 mana.
Nope.
That's all.
So once again, we see the emissary be just a 2/2 for 2, which is it's really unacceptable. I mean, you know, if you're playing that card,
unacceptable or unexceptional?
Unacceptable.
Oh, you did mean unacceptable.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, that's you would
that's
not.
Pretty harsh.
I am harsh. I demand a lot out of my cards. If I'm going to put a card in my deck, I want it to overperform as often as possible. And while this card does, you know, when it does its thing, it is insane. When it doesn't, it's pretty bad. All right, duress here from Bradley.
Right, what do we got? Let's take a look. So we have lots of land. There's a Sphinx's Revelation there, Augur of Bolas, Restoration Angel. The Sphinx's Revelation going away. We'll see later in the game whether that's a big deal.
That's right.
Not. I mean,
I think I like to think of it in terms of like a 1-2 punch. If Alexander can play a sweeper to wipe the whole board, or you know, a removal spell and then flash it back with Snapcast or something like that, where he's killing multiple creatures, then the Sphinx's Revelation becomes very relevant.
Basically, you're saying that Sphinx's Revelation isn't really the card in this kind of match that stabilizes. It isn't sufficient to stabilize.
It is not.
It's the card that draws you away from the opposition once you have stabilized.
That's
so
correct.
It's the 2 of the 1/2 punch.
Exactly.
Right.
It is the It is the devastating uppercut that puts your opponent away.
Yeah.
Now we did see a Gore Clan Rampager here get put on to get blood rushed onto the experiment 1 to get in some extra damage and get rid of that pesky Augur of Bolas, although it's immediately replaced by Alex here.
By another pesky Augur of Bolas. Han taking a look.
Oh no. Does he have a land?
I have a Mizzium Mortis.
He's got to have a land here. There it is.
Yep.
Well, that's
Well,
a very threatening reveal.
I mean, yeah, they say forewarned is forearmed, but the thing is, when they warn you that they're going to execute your entire team, it's like the kind of warning you can live without.
Oh, here we go. This is a big play for Bradley. Falconwrath Aristocrat is going to enable a big damage punch in the air. It's also going to evolve that Experiment 1 and allow him to attack through the Augur of Bolas, leaving a marginal block with the Augur. Now, if Alex does have a sweeper, which it doesn't look like he does, he is going to block the Emissary. If he had a Supreme Verdict in hand or something, he would probably chump block. Even then, though, Supreme Verdict isn't that great. We've seen Falconwrath Aristocrat just be a complete beating against it.
Yep. Hayne in lots of trouble again.
Interestingly, both creatures on the battlefield besides the Aristocrat are humans. They would also put a +1/+1 counter on each on that Aristocrat, plus give it indestructibility. So that Falconwrath Aristocrat is going to need to get Azorius Charmed if Alex is going to be able to play around it here.
Yep. So he passes the turn. Bradley Grant very close, we think, to an 11-1 record here at GP Quebec City.
Alex has 4 untapped mana. He could be representing any number of spells, including Azorius Charm. He could have Searing Spear. He could have Izzet Charm. He could have Restoration Angel. He did not play the Mizzium Orders that he has in his hand. So Bradley has to now try to figure out which one of those is most likely and how to proceed given what he knows. The Falconwrath Aristocrat is easily the most important card on the table here, as it can battle through basically anything outside of Azorius Charm.
So Grant lines up his team, which are all already in the red zone as we look. Though they are not attacking and they are not vigilant. That's
true.
Again, one of those like fairly aggressive players who wants the real estate to belong to them. And he sends the flyer.
Just the one flyer. Now, after he's made this choice, and it basically he's going to take away the option to move all in, as it would be sacrifice both of his guys. Because now if Alex does have Azorius Charm, it would just be too bad. But Azorius he does not have it, and Alex is forced to drop Restoration Angel, which is going to jump in front of that Falconwrath Aristocrat. It is going to mean that the Burning Tree Emissary will also be dead, as Bradley's going to have to sacrifice it.
I didn't say anything.
Yep. There's the sacrifice. Away goes Restoration Angel.
Perfectly reasonable situation for Bradley here, as he does get the counter as well.
And there's more. Dreg Mangler.
So why did he play Dreg Mangler post-combat here? I'm not sure why he played it after combat, as he could have played it in attack with everybody, and if Alex had Restoration Angel, he would be in a really, really bad position, where it would put Alex down to 1.
Well, Hayne still is in a really bad position. He's used up 1 mana already this turn on that Thought Scare you see at the top of his graveyard. 3 mana available. He can turn that into 4 if he's found a land. But again, there are just ways that how does he deal with the Falconwrath Aristocrat?
We've seen Azorius Charm be the key answer to it, and Alex clearly doesn't have that in his hand. So he's going to have to use Mizzium Orders to take out probably the Experiment 1. Remember, the Experiment 1 can regenerate, but this is a sacrifice ability, so that means that regeneration doesn't apply.
Sure.
He's going to take out the Dreg Mangler. He can dump all those counters next turn, especially since he's top decking and he might not have anything else to do anyway, so it seems like a perfectly reasonable play.
But Hayne has Azorius Charm open, and do you really want to spend 5 mana on a Dreg Mangler to put more counters on your Falconwrath Aristocrat, only to see it on top of your library? I don't think you do. Do you?
It does make it lethal, and it makes Alex right now have Azorius Charm, which it feels like he didn't have last time, as he just threw his Angel in front of it.
But if he wants to be lethal, can he not? No, okay.
Yeah, so if he can do it the other way too, but then he risks losing his whole entire board. So I think you probably just go for it. I don't see why not. If he's got Azorius Charm, he's going to do it anyway. Another play you could do is put the Dragmangler counters on the Experiment 1.
Okay.
But there is a block available, and it looks like he's just going for it. I like this play.
Okay.
He's representing lethal. He says, Alex, do you have an Azorius Charm? Because if you don't, this is over, and Alex doesn't.
And it's over.
Thank you. Good luck as well.
So there you have it. Bradley Grant, as we thought, goes to a 2-1 victory, giving him 11 wins on the weekend.